After over 3 centuries of harsh colonial rule, the Filipinos launch a revolt in 1896 under the leadership of General Emilio Aguinaldo. By 1898, they have overcome most of the Spanish rule in the Philippines, save for the walled section of Manila. Admiral Dewey joins forces with General Aguinaldo and drives out the Spanish rulers on the pretext of gaining independence for the Philippines. The United States betrays Aguinaldo and makes the Philippines a colony of the U.S., but the Filipinos continue their war for independence, this time against the United States. To aid them in their fight against the Filipino nationalists, the U.S. utilizes native Filipinos who are traditional adversaries of the revolutionaries. Composed mainly of volunteers from the province of Pampanga, these recruits are eventually formed as the Macabebe Scouts in 1901, and later into several units of the Philippine Scouts U.S. Army. They are an effective unit as they are able to infiltrate the enemy, speak the language, and easily negotiate the terrain. Although the war officially ends in 1902, fighting lasts as late as 1915 in some areas. Superior American forces eventually overwhelm the Filipinos and they finally surrender. It is a brutal war that decimates the Philippine landscape and its people. Death estimates run as high as 25% of the total population due to war and famine. Filipinos continue the fight for independence, laying down swords and taking up the pen under the leadership of Manuel Quezon, an aide to General Aguinaldo, during the Phil-Am War. Between 1919 and 1934, the Philippines sent 12 independence missions to the United States to press for immediate independence. In 1934, Manuel Quezon achieves his goal, the Tidings-McDuffie Act, also known as the Philippine Independence Bill. It guarantees complete independence for the Philippines on July 4, 1946.
So, Senor Quezon, I congratulate you.
Mr. President, I want to express to you the thanks of my people.
Although the Philippines will enjoy increasing governmental independence during its 10 years as a U.S. Commonwealth, the U.S. retains sovereignty over Philippine foreign policy and reserves the right to call Filipinos into the U.S. Armed Forces. This will prove critical and momentous in just a few short years. On November 9, 1935, Quezon is rewarded for his successful independence efforts and is elected the first president of the Philippine Commonwealth. The following month, on December 21, 1935, he signs the National Defense Act, entrusting General MacArthur with the creation of an independent army in the Philippines. With the winds of war blowing in the Pacific, President Roosevelt uses his constitutional authority on July 26, 1941, and orders into service of the United States all of the organized military forces of the Philippines. A War Department directive establishes the U.S. Armed Forces in the Far East, USAFE, under the command of General MacArthur. The Philippine USAFE is composed of the following units: Philippine Scouts, Philippine Commonwealth Army, Philippine Constabulary, New Philippine Scouts, the 1st and 2nd Filipino Infantry Regiments, U.S. Army, 1st Reconnaissance Battalion, recognized guerrilla units. The sum total of Filipino and American POWs is over 72,000, including troops in the Bataan Death March and those later captured at Corregidor and other areas in the Philippine archipelago. Even before the fall of Corregidor in May 1942, Americans and Filipinos who escaped capture at the Battle of Bataan organized into several major guerrilla units throughout the Philippines. They began a protracted campaign against the Japanese Imperial Military Forces. Although severely outmatched by the numerically superior Japanese forces, they are able to inflict significant damage and disrupt Japanese operations throughout the archipelago so much that the Japanese are forced to form the Murista Butai, a special unit designed to combat guerrillas. Filipinos in the U.S. are reclassified from U.S. nationals, quasi-citizens, to aliens as a direct result of the provisions of the 1934 Tidings-McDuffie Act. When the land of their birth is attacked, thousands want to enlist, but cannot due to their alien status. When President Roosevelt is made aware of the large numbers of Filipinos willing to fight for the U.S., thanks to a nationwide campaign by the Filipino community, he changes the Selective Service Act by executive order to allow Filipinos to enlist. The first Phil would participate in combat and mop-up operations in New Guinea, Leyte, Samar, Luzon, and southern Philippines. Elements of these regiments participated in the POW rescue at both Cabanatuan and Santo Tomas, and some are selected for specialized assignments such as intelligence and espionage missions. Among the Allied nations, the Philippines is second only to Poland in terms of total war destruction. In the Allied fight against fascism, nearly 60,000 Filipinos were killed in action, thousands more were wounded for life, and hundreds were classified as missing in action. The civilian casualties were devastating, with loss of life estimated at nearly 1 million. At this great cost, the country was liberated and democracy restored. At the end of the war, President Truman reluctantly signed the 1946 Rescission Act, stripping Filipino veterans, those who were left out of the U.S. Army list of soldiers and guerrillas, of all the veterans' benefits guaranteed by President Roosevelt in 1941. Of the 66 nationalities that fought on behalf of the United States, only those from the Philippines were denied benefits.
They were promised citizenship, health benefits, education benefits, and they were promised that their families would be taken care of and they'd be able to come to the U.S., or if they didn't want to, at least they'd be given some monetary compensation.
Many Filipinos joined with that understanding that they would be treated as a full American military veteran. President Truman's decision to rescind the benefits that were promised them was really a heartbreaking blow, and one that was really treated with disbelief.
I don't know exactly why. Is it because that America is turning away from us?
It was not fair if you look at what they did. Why? Why?
If you were 20 years old in 1941, how old are you today in 2017? A lot of these veterans wanted to live to see this day. It's been 75 years in the making, 75 years that we've waited for this.
In receiving the Congressional Medal, I wish to let it be known that this is not only my triumph to receive the medal, but the triumph of my colleagues who were with me, but unluckily they passed away.
It's too bad he's not here to receive it himself, but it was very important to him. I feel very proud to receive this gift. I wished he could have it, but I have my sons with me, and it means a lot.
It'll be a bittersweet moment to be there and not have my father there. I know my father will be smiling down from heaven, and this would be just an extremely proud day for him.
And I'm sure these young generations will look back or ask themselves questions. My father, my grandfather, finally they are being recognized.
Am I the reason you get stoned every week now? Build up integrity, got you texting, emailing me, wanting me to feel with you. Baby, just face reality, move on.
Sometimes it's hard to face reality.